Thank you. Mr. David Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to follow the honourable member for Newcastle, a fellow scientist, albeit I might say that some of her evidence could have perhaps benefited from peer review. However, can I ask her, however, I think on behalf of the whole House, to pass on our best wishes to the Secretary of State for a speedy recovery. Shadow Secretary of State, yes. I don't think my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State, requires any help in recovery. He is a formidable champion for business, as I know sometimes to my cost in my old job, and he has been a brilliant exponent and driver of the modernisation of or the enabling of the modernisation of the British industrial state. And just to pick up one point from the honourable lady, she talked about the treatment of employees and the so-called gig economy and so on. He was the one who brought the Matthew Taylor report with all of the innovative ideas there to both improve the protection of employees in our country at the same time as not destroying the jobs that they enjoy. Something pretty formidable in its own right. So I commend him for that. But I do not intend to follow down that route today. I've only got 3 points to make. I'm going to be very brisk, Mr. Speaker, and I probably won't take any interventions, I'm afraid, because I want just to make 3 points quickly. Traditionally, the budget is dominated by the technical metrics of growth rates, inflation rates, taxation, deficits, debt levels, spending, all of those things, incredibly important issues as they are. Indeed, one of the reasons that it would be a disaster to have a Labour government is that they would ignore all of those things, deliver us into national bankruptcy with the economic crisis and the social crisis that would follow. But what is important here is to understand, for a Conservative government who does take that seriously, does take all of those things seriously, that this is the box in which we deliver the actual budget. Because the budget is about improving people's lives, about delivering the best outcome for our nation. And as Conservatives, we believe in a narrative of property-owning democracy, encompassing opportunity, personal responsibility, economic freedom, fairness, social mobility. For most of my colleagues, our view of the right sort of society for us is a society in which there is no limit to which anyone might rise and a limit beneath which no man might fall, no person may fall. With that, I want to measure this budget against the aspirations of our citizens. Does it meet the aspirations of a good university education, to get a job, build a meaningful career, buy a home and raise a family? These are aspirations that everyone shares across the House and across the nation with all our constituents, and everyone should have the opportunity to pursue. Now, all political parties talk a good story when they're trying to persuade people that they're on their side. But it's what governments do, not what they say, that matters to the public. And this is nowhere more true than in the budget. The language of public finance is the language of priorities, which is why this is so important. So if we start with that definition of a decent society, both the ladder of opportunity and the social safety net are determined for the least well-off by the benefit system, by the welfare system. That's the key, really, that underpins for all of the least well-off their opportunities and their security. Now, for decades, the British welfare system has been a nightmare of complexity, in which hard work was effectively penalised, sometimes to the point of being not worthwhile at all from an economic point of view, albeit it's always worthwhile from a moral point of view. Now, the coalition government started a necessary reform by bringing in the universal credit system. Now, much has been said about it, it's been controversial. The whole system, however, is a significant step in the right direction. The tax credits and benefit system introduced by Gordon Brown all too often trapped people in a cycle of dependency. And this was not unforeseeable. I was the Public Accounts Committee chairman when he brought it in. He copied it from a system in America which was failing already. So it was very visible that this was going to happen. Many people who made the effort to go out and find work faced an effective taxation rate or tax and withdrawal rate of up to 95%. Benefits should seek to aid people's return to work, not to trap them in unemployment. So universal credit seeks to correct this problem by helping more people to work and enabling to keep more of what they can. But it absolutely has to be properly funded. Absolutely has to be properly funded. I therefore welcome, in my view, the most important part of the Chancellor's budget was his announcement on this. But to ensure that those in most need, single parents, some who know me knows a particular issue of importance to me, single parents, couples without children, those who shouldn't be economically dependent on their partners, aren't left wanting. We must make sure that in the future that they aren't left wanting by subsequent changes. So it will need further funding beyond what has already been promised in this budget, and I will certainly be watching that in the future. Nevertheless, this is an excellent action by the Chancellor, and I commend him for that. The next most important way to help people make the most of their lives is through education and training, something that the Secretary of State has been a great exponent of in his role. However, today the cost of getting a university education, plus the confusion around the financing of it, act as a disincentive to taking a university education. I'm afraid the policy on student loans has failed. Almost half the loans will never be repaid. They are a falsehood in the national accounts. Crucially, the loan system has failed to deliver a market in university education. And the honourable member on the front bench shouldn't be smiling. They basically invented this system, and created the problems I'm about to talk about. It failed to create and to deliver a market in university education, with the least valuable courses at the worst universities costing precisely the same as the most valuable course at the most prestigious university. That's not a market. And at least some of the money has gone not into world-class research, but into overpaying some pretty second-rate vice-chancellors. The whole system needs to be revamped, turned into a proper graduate contribution system with honest accounting, clear rules, and no retrospective changes in the interest rates or other terms. In the long run, we should move away from loans altogether with a liberating psychological impact that they would have had on young people. Well, I'll tell him why I won't give way. It's because he was part of the government that invented this system, which created this crisis in the first place. Now, I also believe we need to do more. On housing. It's an issue of utmost importance. Home ownership levels are plummeting, and many young people believe they'll never have a home to call their own. As a party of aspiration, we must do better. Help to Buy is failing. It's not increasing supply of housing, rather it's increasing the cost of new homes by 15% and inflating the bonuses of developers. Help to Buy should be scrapped immediately. We need to dramatically increase the supply of new homes and make those homes attractive and affordable. Perhaps the best idea being mooted, if I go off-piece for a second, forgive me, Mr. Speaker, perhaps the best idea being mooted is that of garden towns, garden cities and garden villages. Garden villages between 1,500 and 5,000 homes will actually be big enough to justify schools, shopping centres, buses and so on. Now, landowners where such developments are created make spectacular windfall gains, as much in the south of England as much as £1 million an acre. And this is where the Treasury's issue comes in here. There's no reason why half of such gains should not be funneled in a way to reduce the price of the final house, so that when we do create affordable housing, it's proper affordable housing, it's decent size, it's not a little box, it's not a progressively shrinking option. That way we get those affordable houses that we need to have. However we do it, we, the Conservative Party, have to grasp this problem and solve it. This party has for over 50 years, been the party of a home-owning democracy. We need to once more make home ownership available to a whole new generation. Now, since the Gordon Brown crash, and I'll call it that, I was going to call it the 2008 crash, but since the 2008 crash, we've heard a lot about threats to capitalism. And, of course, they're real, in the personality of the Leader of the Opposition, for a start. Yeah. The simple truth is that free markets, free trade, property ownership and social mobility have delivered improvements to the lives of billions around the world, not just in Britain, billions around the world, taken them out of poverty and given them a future. The best defence to capitalism in this country is to deliver those benefits to a new generation of young people. Britain's an aspirational country, we're an aspirational party, we need to deliver on that. The first step in it is the fantastic jobs performance of the economy. You know, the opposition never like to speak about the fact that this is the lowest unemployment in my adult lifetime, the highest employment ever in this country. That is a remarkable achievement given the mess we were given when we came in. And the honourable gentleman intervened on the honourable lady earlier, saying, oh, well, you know, when we came into power in 97, the debt was this and so on. When they came into power in 97, the chief economic advisor to the then Prime Minister Tony Blair said publicly, this is the best economy any government has ever inherited. We have no, I'm not going to go away, I'm coming to the end. We have never ever inherited such an economy from any Labour government in history, and there's good reason why that's the case. Oh dear.
Point of order, Mr. Gibbon-Jones.
I know I don't want to interrupt the right honourable gentleman in his leadership speech, but the point is this supposed to be a debate? He actually referred to something said early on in this debate and wouldn't let me come back. Is that in order?
Bad manners.
I don't think that the chair is the arbiter of normality. And the answer is sometimes the member on his or her feet gives way and other times not. And the honourable gentleman is experienced enough in this House to know that. He has registered his mild irritation. But the right honourable gentleman, the member for Halton, Price and Howden, has adhered to the rules today, as on previous occasions. Mr. David Davis.
Mr. Speaker, that intervention came one sentence from the end of my speech, so I will simply add to it that it seems to me that some points of order are as bogus as the facts that the honourable gentleman claims to aspire to. Throughout the last 50 years, governments of all parties have made enormous claims for their intent on social mobility. Nearly all of those claims have been fallen short of in delivery. This should be a government that delivers on social mobility, delivers on the real value of a capitalist economy, and on that basis I commend this budget to the House.